Hi, and welcome to the board wrap-up for the month of November. It's a great month, a great time of year for our Ponca City schools. We approach the holidays. It's hard to believe that school's going on its fourth month in session. Normally, Dr. Pennington's with us. He's out of town. Bret Smith fills in very well for Dr. Pennington, and we're happy to have Bret with us to talk about the November Board of Education meeting. And Bret, you said there was a lot of things that went on, but maybe not a lot of action taken. You had a safety report that was very important last night, though, for the Board of Education.
I did, and it was the first one that we've given to the board. The new law changed last year with the introduction of the Oklahoma School Security Institute that said that we needed to give our Board of Education an annual report on our safety plan for the district. So last night I did the very first one.
How'd it look?
Well, I thought it looked great.
Yeah,
but I gave it. So
are we handling safety in a good way in our schools?
Absolutely. We've been really kind of ahead of the game for a lot of years. When I got into the position of safety back in the late 90s, we started off with some guidelines and emergency flip charts and a plan to keep us safe, in the event that something happened in any way, whether it's a school shooting, whether it is a tornado, an earthquake, those kinds of things. So we just developed a plan, and it just improves all the time. It's never going to be ending, and progress allows us to do things a little differently, a little bit better, and events that happen all over the United States, whether it's an earthquake, a tornado, a school shooting, also makes us jump through a lot of hoops in order to get things better because of those events. We learn best practices.
Yeah, 10 years ago we didn't think about the necessities of entering a school. Now, we knew it was important to make sure that schools knew who was in those schools, but you didn't see some of the things that we've seen over the last few years. But our school's been very proactive in making sure that as time goes on, when we rework our schools and maybe rebuild or update, that is the first thing probably that is addressed.
It is, absolutely. It allows us a great opportunity. Because of things that happen, like that thing that happened in Sandy Hook, gave us an idea of how to make our schools better in our projects that we have passed bond issues for. Bond issues are made to improve schools. This just changed the focus a little bit more with the advent of safety entrances. We are in the process now of doing Woodlands Elementary, where we're going to build a safety vestibule area in the front that's going to allow people to come in, run through our lobby guard system, which is a safety check that runs through the NCCI network that scans the driver's license to see if we've got a sex offender trying to make way into the schools. So they are credentialed, prints them a badge, and then they're forced to walk into the office where they check in, give their intention of their business, and if they're allowed to go into the school, they can at that time. So Woodlands is in process. Trout will be the next year. Liberty will be the year after that, and the other schools like East, West, Garfield, they've already got those systems in place. So we've been fortunate with those and those bond issues in the past. And then the other schools will come online just as we get the money.
And the high school obviously was a big change, but parents need to rest assured when you try to get into that high school, there's only one way, there's only one door open, and security is right there. So it takes a couple of seconds. It doesn't take very long to get in. But parents ought to put that out of their mind. Their kids are safe when they go to school.
And that's the feedback that we've received. I've never really had any pushback other than, well, I've got to take my license out and do this. It's a little bit of a pain, but they understand that their kids are safe, or as safe as they can be. Like the high school, we've got a tremendous amount of resources up there. We've got our SRO, or Security Resource Officer. We've got security guards, and they monitor that entrance. And we've got camera systems. Those camera systems have been invaluable over the years. We've gradually got every school and every building online with a camera, and those enhance each year where those cameras get better technology, and we put a few more in to cover more spaces, and those help a whole lot.
We know tornado was self-explanatory, and we've all been through that, but you mentioned earthquake. Is that fairly new to have to develop safety procedures in case we do have an earthquake?
I think within the last several years, with all the recent earthquakes we've had in the state of Oklahoma, that's brought on a great awareness. We do have a system in place for training or a earthquake practice day throughout the United States. And it started out in the state of California, but now it's spread all over the place. So in October of each year, they have a shake-up. I can't remember the exact term, the great day of shake-up or something of that nature, that is an earthquake drill. And so we do that in the state of Oklahoma, and we do it right here in Ponca City to practice that.
So lets the kids get an idea. Hopefully we'll never have to use that. Anything else about safety that you wanted to report? I guess pretty much, though, we haven't had any type of an incident so far this year.
Well, fortunately, we haven't. You never know. It's not if, it's when. So we've got to be prepared the best we can. We've got guidelines set in place. No two situations are ever going to be the same. What happened in Sandy Hook is not going to happen exactly the same way here. So yeah, we're prepared. We feel that we've got safe places to be. And I've got a little bit of when you talked about tornadoes, last year we had an engineering group come in and evaluate our buildings to see where we are with our current tornado shelters. That's one of the change orders that we approved last night, was an increase in cost to upgrade and make safer, according to the FEMA specifications for safe rooms, Lincoln's safe room. They determined that the lid or the roof of our safe room area, although it was built really, really strong, back in the late 90s when it was constructed, we didn't have the FEMA recommendations and specifications for those things. So they determined that it didn't quite meet it. So while we're doing this process at Lincoln and redoing the roof and adding the HVAC, it was the time to redo the lid. So we reinforced the lid, made it up to FEMA specifications or beyond. So now then those kids will be a whole lot safer than where they were before. So that helps.
When you update schools like is going on with Woodland, and you mentioned Trout and Liberty, do they currently have a place for the students to go? And if they don't, do you try to build that into the project?
All of our sites have places to go. We've made sure that over the years, back in the day when most of these schools were built, they built like the cafeterias below grade, so they are below the surface of the ground, which allows us for a lot safer place to move kids. Cafeterias, they hold a lot of people at one time. But it was because of our thoughts and the more tornadoes that we decided to go ahead and look at these a little closer. So we feel the kids are in a safe place, but they can get better. So as these projects come online, we're going to address those areas and make them even safer than where they are currently.
Terrific. A couple of other reports that I know you wanted to make comments on. You didn't give the reports, but there was a food service report by Mr. Denton last night.
Yes, he gave us some insight about the federal regulations that he has to run up against. He is regulated by the federal and state government to do what he needs to do as far as nutrition for kids. He serves about 6,000 meals a day. This is the largest restaurant in Ponca City, and it feeds a lot of kids. He's got a huge budget of about $3 million. He's got revenue sources from the federal and state and local areas, and payroll. He's got 70 staff members and 11 serving sites. So he does a whole lot with his child nutrition program. But with the new rules that faces child nutrition programs all over the country, they had to increase their serving sizes of fruits and vegetables. That's a good thing. It's mandatory for them to do that, not optional whatsoever. But it becomes a little bit difficult in that the servings of fruits and vegetables, for example, went from maybe a quarter of a cup or a half a cup to a full cup. Well, if you add a full cup of fruits to the plate of a breakfast for a 4-year-old, he can't eat it all. So unintended consequences, we end up with a lot of waste. The kids can't eat all of that. And the requirements for sodium, for the amounts or kinds of fruits or vegetables, they're all specified and categorized. Some of the sodium requirements If Jeff was to serve a turkey sandwich, it would exceed the sodium requirement for a kid, and it's because it's so low. The requirement for sodium for those kids isn't even equal to a normal reoccurring sodium in a lot of other foods. Mm-hmm. So it becomes really difficult. They've got whole grains in their breads, have to be up to about 50%. They've got the cost concern have to go up. Another unintended consequence was now that they have to serve 1 full cup of fruits, the price of fruits all over the country went triple in price. We even saw it at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. So that caused more the meals to go up. We have to come up with more storage space because we have to pack in so much of those items. So there's been a lot of things that the federal government, well intended, has caused some things that is not really good for the program. It's not good for the country. It's not good for the kids. But it was well intended. He had a great program that he gave to us last night. It was very in-depth. He told us all about all the regulations. Smart snacks was another regulation that the federal government came out there, because we've got snacks being brought into the school district, whether it's by vending machine or whether it's by a group of students with a fundraiser, those types of things. They have to adhere to those rules too, not just Jeff in what we feed the kids in the cafeteria, but if they bring a fundraiser in, they have to abide by the rules. They have to be whole grain rich. Their first ingredient must be a fruit, vegetable, or a dairy product or protein food. Combination foods have to have at least a 1/4 cup of fruit or vegetable in them, or contain 10% of the daily value of nutrients set out by the USDA. So fundraisers can't do candy bars very well.
Wow.
So it makes a big difference. Now, concession stands at football and basketball games, those were not intended to be in this rule. The school day ends at 4:30, so anytime after 4:30, it's not technically school, so those snacks and candy bars can still be purchased. And I think that they're going to change that here in the near future. Calorie limits, sodium limits, fat limits, sugar limits, all those nutrient requirements that Jeff has to adhere to are very taxing, very time consuming, and he has to keep track and read every nutrient and prove to the USDA that's what he served. Mm-hmm. Not only does he serve it, he has to prove he did.
I'm interested in the cost on this, though, because where it gets passed along. I know that we have reduced meals for kids, for a lot of kids, but does the school system get passed on that increase, or does the consumer, aka the students, do they get the increase? Obviously, when you're serving more food, you're going to have more cost involved.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, the students get that passed on to them. The child nutrition programs get reimbursed by the federal government. Those kids who are on free meals, the government will give or subsidize that back by $2.98 a meal. Kids on reduced meal prices, the government will subsidize back $2.58, full price 28 cents, and then there's a 6 cents bonus, so to speak. If he has to serve these things and count the nutrients, that's law. But if he does it, they give him, and they prove it, then they give him an extra 6 cents on top of that. So yeah, there's quite a bit of cost, and like I say, most of it has to be absorbed by the kids and so forth, and the teachers who purchase the food.
Extremely difficult position. I'm glad it's Jeff and not me. He's a smart guy, though. He'll get it worked. He's the best, I promise you. Dr. Cusick gave a report on alternative education last night. What would you like to talk about that?
Well, she gave a short report on her alternate education program, the alternative school at Wildcat Academy, and our Teen Pet program. We've got about 66 kids at Wildcat, with 21 this last year who graduated. They are already have 5 graduated this year, and they are in line. I think the goal is somewhere around 40 is what the goal is. Prior to Wildcat Academy, we had the Ombudsman program, and they just didn't perform. So we've probably quadrupled the amount of graduates in that program. They're doing well, they're successful, and they're there for probably 5 hours, and I think 5 hours and 15 minutes a day, and they can get multiple credits in a semester, and go ahead and graduate with the rest of the with their groups. Teen Pep has got about 23 kids in it. They've already graduated 3, and they're in their classrooms for about 4 hours and 30 minutes a day. They've got online programs. It's a self-paced program. All the testing and so forth that's being done is done right there. And a lot of the teachers, of course, are teaching some of the programs, but so many of them are online that they get to enjoy those programs in total. A lot of partnerships that are involved with the alternative ed program. The Oklahoma Department of Health is involved in it. Our Ponca City leadership team is involved with it. Matter of fact, they are PI partner for Teen Pep. The Edward Jones is a PI partner for Wildcat Academy. Oklahoma Regional Food Bank, and also Quality Inn is also a PI partner for Wildcat. So we've got a lot of help, a lot of assistance, and they're doing very, very well. They feel good about it.
Terrific. Next month is the application for school board elections. If you would like to run for school board, did you have anything that was discussed about the elections coming up in February of next year at your board meeting?
Yeah, it was. It's not humorous, but back when we had 7 board members, we had, in the transition from going from 7 to 5, you had some board members who were trying to finish out some terms. Some were going to a 1-year term, some to a 3-year term, some to a 5-year term. And with all of that transition, the board numbers, of course, changed. We went from 7 to 5 different wards. We got 2 of the wards wrong in number. So we had to have a resolution last night to change that back. What happens is if we have an election, we go to the K County courthouse and we tell them this is what we want to do, and there's a new program at the State Department that if it's not correct in some way, whether it's ward numbers, whether it's somebody up for a re-election or some of those natures, it flags it, and they send it back to the county, and they say this is wrong, and so we have to change those wards back. It's a simple process. They told us we really don't have to do it. We can do what we want to, but every time that a board election comes up and the ward number's wrong, it's going to flag us and say, hey, you need to do something about it. So we changed it last night to make it all where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Very simple.
I think we have 2 elections in February, 2 board posts. So again, early December, the filing period for those elected board offices.
Yes.
Also, you gave an attendance update on where we are as far as the number of kids in our schools are concerned.
Yeah, it was Dr. Pennington gave us a short one. We are about 20 students down from where we are last year to this year in November. You know, it was a little bit more. We thought, you know, some kids come in a little bit late, some leave us for a variety of reasons. So about 20 students down, which is not tremendous. We're kind of stabilizing now. Our reporting process is October 1. That's where everything is based off of it. So we've kind of settled in now, about 20 students down.
Very good. What else about the board meeting that you wanted to mention, Brett?
There were just a lot of housekeeping type items, agreements with some Catapult Learning, which is a literacy first program that we've been using for years. We had to do a new board policy on the evaluation of student academic growth. That is part of the TLE program. It's fully implemented in 2015-16, but some of this doesn't work well, and we feel there's going to be some changes, but state law says that we must have a policy in place that says that we're going to do those things, and that's what they did last night. They just approved the policy that we're going to go through those procedures, but we feel it's going to change very soon. The Roosevelt PTA came and during public comment and in support of a resolution on assessment and accountability. During this last summer, the Oklahoma PTA adopted a resolution for assessment and accountability systems in Oklahoma public schools, basically taking away some, you know, in support of not having such high stakes testing and not so much testing that involves teacher evaluation. They just came to tell us they support it. We approved it last night to go along with that. We also approved a district site improvement plan for Title I. There's just lots and lots of data, lots of work that is involved for that site improvement plan. And it's just almost taxing to look at all that to try to figure out exactly where it is. But the CLEP plan is comprised of several components, and one being the site improvement plan. And so they approved that last night. Gift Advisory Committee was approved, and then probably finally I had several change orders. Most of them were all credits. Change order number 2 for Lincoln Roof and the HVAC project I mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. That new lid to help keep kids safe was $124,000. That was not part of the original project, but we added to it in order to get this accomplished while we had the roof open. Change order number 3 for Union Elementary Model Addition. That project is complete, but they gave us a credit of $24,000, which is part of the contingency funds for unforeseen things that they didn't use, so they gave it back to us, which is really nice. We always like to have money back. Change order number 5 for the East Grand Administration remodel. We also had a credit of about $6,000 for some changing flooring that occurred. And then change order number 1 for the Woodlands Elementary remodel project. There's a credit for $940 for a few small changes there. So projects don't come without change orders. Mm-hmm. You find things when you start remodeling, and this is part of that whole process.
The new administration building, I drove by one day and it was all hollow. You could see right through it. And about a week later, it was all bricked up. That project's coming along, isn't it?
It really is. It's coming along very well. They are doing the sheetrock work on the inside, so you can actually tell where the walls are and where the offices, the new boardroom, and some of those things. So it's exciting to see that old building, built in 1923, I believe, the first part of that, mm-hmm. Being rejuvenated and brought back to life. The back half of it that used to belong to kids. Mm-hmm. We had classrooms in the back of there, the band room, the art room, some of those things. Those are also being utilized very well and brought back to life. It's going to be very exciting.
It's a great building,
too.
It
really is.
Washington Elementary, how is progress there going, Brett? And how is the students that moved to Washington, how's that transition been for those kids?
Well, it's gone very, very well. We've, transportation was a big issue, mm-hmm. because now all those kids from Woodlands need to go to the Washington school. There's not anybody that can walk. It's just too far away, so we are transporting those kids. And so it was a little bit of a headache, to get that all figured out, how to drop kids off and how to get kids picked up. Parents had a learning curve, mm-hmm. but probably the first 2 or 3 weeks of school was a little bit hectic, but it all worked out real well. Becky's got a great team over there. She's very enthusiastic. Matter of fact, one of the certified employees of the month last night was Terry James, and I know that she was very instrumental in doing a whole lot of that work herself. She got in and she built some shelves, and she did some painting, and she did some odds and ends in order to make Washington Elementary, Woodlands Elementary for the year that they're there. Mm-hmm. So I think they're doing very well, very well.
And Woodlands continues to, I live right by Woodlands, so I see about every day something different happen there too.
Yes, and right now a lot of just foundational stuff mm-hmm. is going on, a lot of concrete work. Here pretty quick you're going to start seeing some steel go up and make some dramatic differences very quickly.
It'll be ready for those kids next fall then, huh?
It will be ready, and then we're going to do the same thing to Trout, mm-hmm. so we've got a lot of shuffling to do. It's going to be exciting to figure out how we're going to get that done in a timely manner, but we'll get it done.
Good to see you again, Brett. Thanks very much. Bret Smith with us on our monthly school superintendent update.